Friday. Ever since they opened up that wall, we've been finding mouse droppings on our kitchen counters. So that means the mice are living out in the open now. Mom says we can't leave any food lying around because then the mice will get up on the surfaces where we eat. So we've been trying to keep everything really clean. And I've been putting our snacks in places where the mice can't get to them. Dad's been looking up ways to get rid of mice that won't hurt them. But Roderick has his own ideas for what to do. He wants to buy a snake and let nature take its course. When Mom asked Roderick what we'd do once the snake ate the mice, he said we'd buy a mongoose to catch the snake. So remind me not to visit Roderick's house when I get older. The mice aren't our only problem though. We've got wasps in the house now too. Mom found one crawling on the mantel above the fireplace last night, and there was another one flying around the kitchen this morning during breakfast. We can't figure out how they're getting inside, because we've been keeping the windows shut and we don't open the front door unless we have to. Mom thinks they might be coming in from underneath the tarp that's covering the side of the house. So she sent Dad out there tonight to make sure there aren't any gaps where they're getting through. But Dad wasn't happy about it, because there was a thunderstorm. I would have helped him, but I was afraid of being struck by lightning. At school, Albert Sandy told us about this kid who got hit by lightning while he was out to the canoe, and now he's supercharged with electricity. Gzop. Well, everyone at my lunch table thought that sounded pretty cool, but I know that if it happened to me, everyone would just use me as a charging station. Roderick had a theory about how the wasps were getting in, but it sounded kind of crazy. He explained there are all different types of wasps, like paper wasps and mud wasps. He said, we've probably got sewer wasps, and they're getting in through the toilets. Well, I've never heard of a sewer wasp before, but I'm not taking any chances. Right now, we've got a rodent problem and an insect problem, and I'm not sure which is worse. I don't know why our house can't be infested with something cute instead. Because if we're overrun by koalas, I really wouldn't have a problem with it. Smack. Saturday. Last week, the workers had to disconnect our air conditioner so they can bring in a bigger unit. So for now, we're all sleeping in the basement because that's the only place in the house where it's cool. I can see why Roderick likes it down there, especially in the summer. I don't love being underground though, which is making me rethink the whole plan for my dream house. Dad said when he was growing up, some people built bunkers where they could go if there was a war or something. Well, living in a tiny underground space with my whole family sounds like a terrible idea. First of all, the stacks would be gone by the second day. And if we only had one bathroom down there, we'd have major problems. Knock, knock, knock. Tap, tap. I guess we'd have a periscope so we'd know when the coast was clear on the surface. But if the periscope got blocked, we might never know it was okay to go back up. Dad said some people still build bunkers so they can stay safe if there's a natural disaster, like a tornado or something. Well, this morning I thought we were experiencing an earthquake, and the last place I wanted to be was underground. But the reason the ground was shaking was because the workers were outside jackhammering. Rat-at-at-at. They were breaking up our old driveway so they could pour a new one. And I was pretty sure the neighbors weren't going to be happy about all the noise, especially Mr. Laruca, who had just gotten home from his shift at the hospital. Rat-at-at-at-at. But I was excited about the new driveway. Our old one was in really bad shape, so you couldn't really use it for anything. And maybe that's what's been holding me back from becoming a professional athlete all this time. Slam. When they hauled the rubble away and the truck came to pour the fresh concrete, I started to get nervous. A lot of the kids in my neighborhood are jerks, and they'll see wet concrete, they'll write stupid stuff in it. On top of that, Mrs. Rutkowski's cats have been in our yard a lot lately hunting for mice. I didn't want a bunch of paw prints in the freshly poured concrete. So after the work is finished, I patrolled the perimeter to make sure everyone stayed off. Pat, pat. I was watching the street, but it turns out I should have been watching the garage. I heard the door open and Roderick started pulling his van out. I tried to stop him, but it was playing his music too loud to hear. Splorsh. I couldn't believe no one inside the house told Roderick about the driveway. But it turns out they had a really good excuse, because they were dealing with a more serious problem. Smoke was pouring out of the windows on the first floor, and they heard sirens in the distance. Mom came running out the front door, and Dad was right behind her. 10 seconds later, a fire truck pulled up along the curb, and a couple of firefighters got out. They ran across the lawn and onto the front walkway, which the workers had just finished pouring. Splish, sploosh. That's when everyone realized that Manny was still inside, but thankfully, he'd already had practice for this sort of thing. The good news is, there wasn't actually a fire. There was just a lot of smoke. But the bad news is, it was my fault. Last week, when we were putting our food in places where the mice couldn't get it, I hid some snacks in the oven. So when Mom preheated the oven to put in a batch of bacon this morning, a plastic bag melted. It's kind of unfortunate, because that was a waste of some perfectly good potato chips. And this was definitely one of those times when I could have used that escape hatch in the back of my closet. Can I crash at your place for a while? Wednesday. Believe it or not, Mom and Dad have already moved past the whole potato chip bag incident. That's good news for me. But the reason they forgot about it is the bad news. A few days ago, the building inspector came out to check the framing of the addition. And when he did, he found out the whole structure was too close to Mrs. Tuttle's property line by about 3 feet. I guess the construction company messed up when they created plans for the addition, but the town didn't catch the mistake when they issued the building permit. So now, there was just a bunch of finger pointing and no one would take any responsibility. The building inspector told us the only thing we could really do now was to get our next door neighbor to sign something that says we had permission to build the structure close to our property line. But that wasn't going to be easy. The other day, when the concrete guys came back to patch up the driveway and front walk, they set up their cement mixer on our lawn. But I guess they forgot we were on a hill, because the mixer tipped over and poured fresh concrete right into Mrs. Tuttle's garden. Gloop. Blub. So when Mom and Dad asked for Mrs. Tuttle's permission to keep our addition where it was, she wasn't looking to do them any favors. Mrs. Tuttle wouldn't budge, and the town told Mom and Dad the whole structure was gonna have to come down, and that's exactly what happened this afternoon. Crunch. So now everyone's unhappy, except for Manny. He finished work on his place today, and he had a housewarming party to celebrate.